Hi, Winning Women. Welcome to our interview this week with the amazing Helen Elizabeth Evans. And before we begin, I'd just like to say all these are recorded and they go in the guide section of the page. I'm also streaming this to YouTube and to my Rosemary Cunningham Facebook page. But I'm a bit of a novice at this and I'm not quite sure where to send anyone at the moment. Bear with me. I'll have mastered it by October. But we've got a fabulous lineup of different people coming. So if you go to the events section in the page, go to the top of the page and go to, I think it's the tab with 3 little dots. Have a look in there under events. And I've created an event for everyone who's coming up. So basically, we've got our amazing electricians next week. We've got Louise Simpson, our declutterer. And we've got Robin Banks, who's doing GDPR, and a couple of other people already booked. So go and have a look, and I'll make sure they're all saved in the guide section. So, welcome, Helen. You are one of the original, aren't you?
Yes. Way back when.
Absolutely. And we've known each other since about 2012. And you looked at my hands in 2013. And
you were so on the ball. I can't remember that far back.
Well, I can remember because it was a real pivotal point in my life. I remember meeting you and thinking, this is fascinating. I really want this, because I wanted that insight into me, because I was confusing myself. I was having problems with my hands in my therapy business. I already had to change my career from nursing, and I just didn't know where I was going. And I'd just done my money coaching, and I really needed some guidance and some direction. And what you were telling us about the hand analysis was just, oh my goodness. So I remember sort of getting the money together and coming to see you in your house in London, and you took prints of my hands. And I remember you taking me over to the window, and you had your magnifying glass and you were looking at my fingertips, and you told me I had 8 intuition markers. And I kind of didn't even know what intuition was in 2013. And it almost scared me. I remember carrying this report that you gave me around for weeks afterwards and just reading it. And so if you're thinking of working with Helen or just interested, this is really, really powerful stuff. So Helen, tell us a bit about you. How did you get into this? And while you're doing this, I'm just going to make sure that no one's chasing around trying to find us.
How did I get into this? Well, I think I've been running my I fell into running in my own business, corporate world, and you're supposed to find a guy, you're supposed to get married, you're supposed to do, right? And I discovered I'm not really very good at supposed to. Then I fell into running my own businesses, which was kind of, I really discovered I love business because I really love freedom, and the choice of actually running my own business and having the freedom to do what I wanted was great. But then I kind of had got married and I had kids, and I just found that I was earning a lot of money, but I had no life. And I think that, the first thing I started to do was kind of say, well, hang on a second. I have this spiritual side to me that I've been hiding and not really admitting to most people for a long time. And, on the other side, I'm a very pragmatic businesswoman doing my thing. And this other part of me was not being honored. And I was really unhappy, and I just didn't feel, I was in everybody's eyes, I was successful, right? And I put successful in inverted commas because there's a lot of strange ideas about what successful really is in this world. And I don't know if there's anybody who's listening actually can sort of understand this feeling that you have where you seem to have done everything you're supposed to have done, and you just still feel somehow unworthy, or that you're just not enough, or you're frustrated, you're unfulfilled. You're like, I'm working so hard on this thing that I think is great or whatever it is, and it's not meaningful to me. And I do think we go through plateaus like that in our lives, but there are these crisis points that we hit. And I hit that, and I decided to just start looking for something else in the world that kind of, some kind of sense of purpose. And I discovered scientific hand and fingerprint analysis through my search for my purpose. And it was that kind of led me. And I'm really kind of a bit of a skeptic. I'm the type who kind of goes, yeah, this is entertaining, but really, who cares? Just a bit of entertainment, stimulation, give me some ideas or whatever. But it was the first thing I'd come across that I thought, oh my God, I've never come across anything that has sawn into me or has seen into me to such an extent. Like you said, Rosemary, it's like where you feel so seen and like, acknowledging that, oh my God, that is me. Those are my challenges. Those are the things that I do well. And just to have somebody else reflect that back to you. And it's part of your body. I love the fact that it's actually part of your body that you can look at. There's something tangible about it. And I got very excited about it. And I decided I wanted to learn how to do it. Because I just saw so much potential in it. And I was like, why isn't anybody in the UK doing this stuff? Why isn't anybody sharing it? And that's how I got into actually learning about it. And I've never looked back, because I just, as far as people just keep saying to me over and like what you've said, it's life changing. Once you get somebody to really look into your hands and to see the threads and how they all link together, and just to give you those insights that just blow your mind and kind of go, oh my God, what have I been doing? This is my path. But like you have expressed that, at the time that I told you had all these intuition markers, you didn't even know what intuition was. It takes time to step into sometimes who you're here to be, but at least you have a picture from your fingerprints of what you're here to actually do.
Yes, and I remember the other thing. What's the part where it says all the challenges you've been having and where you get stuck?
Yeah, life lessons. Well, both your gift markers and your life lessons. And to a certain extent, your life score will also indicate that. I mean, that really, for me, was one of the most powerful aspects of what it is. So what did you want to say about that?
Well, I just remember looking at it, and I felt I was in a place of quite a lot of stuckness at the time, and I can recognise, looking back now, that's where I go. I get into a sort of a helpless, hopeless kind of situation, and even on an hourly basis, it's really quite interesting. If I don't know what to do, that's exactly where I go. And I think it's about, and the way to get yourself out of it sometimes is remembering who you are. So for me, knowing that I had all that intuition ability was a signal to start developing it. And to find the help I needed. And I'm still a work in progress, absolutely, hands up. And of course, in the last 7 or 8 years since you read my hands, we've had so much more insight and knowledge and amazing mentors coming in teaching us about this stuff, haven't we? Yeah. We hardly had YouTube in 2013, did we? So we just did not have the same access to all these tools, these amazing tools. And I think the other thing today was you straight away said how your hands can help you get unstuck. And so for me, it's been that knowledge of, I think, just that realising the awareness that this is my default. I'm not crazy. This is me. And this is how I can be. And then to find something to link between the two, which for me a lot of it has been intuition. And I know every now and again I meet with you, and you don't remember all of my hand analysis, because you do most of them, but you know me pretty well. We've worked together, haven't we? We did Winning Women London together. You took it over from me. And you sort of look at me sometimes and you think, I'm growing into the woman you saw back then, didn't you? That I had no idea who she was. Yeah.
And do you feel better about that? Do you feel better about who you are now? Does it feel more comfortable?
Oh, yes. And I think you have to remind yourself as well. I think you have to go back and join the dots. It's a bit like sitting there at the end of the year thinking, okay, well, who am I now that I wasn't a year ago? What have I done? Because we have this stupid default, isn't it, where we focus on the thing that's wrong rather than all those amazing things that are right. And
yeah, that's true.
Yes, I do. And even things like this, doing these interviews, you would have probably seen this as my potential back then, but I wouldn't dreamed of doing it. So yeah,
you were very reserved.
Yeah, and it helps you step into your leadership, I think. And I can see this, I hope she won't mind me saying, is Karen Boone, who is part of our interview team next week. And Karen has just owned, she's going to got a role now in a corporate company. She's no longer just an electrician, and she's I wanted to get these 3 amazing electricians in, because they're here to change the world. They're here to help women get into doing trades where they can have that fulfillment and have that job potential, and for youngsters where they aren't shown this path. And Karen's such a figure for that, isn't she? So she's really stepping into her leadership. And and that's what I think you do for people. You look at their hands and you think, well, you could do this, 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 and this. And then it gives us an avenue to connect it.
It's like a vision. And I think particularly women, we have been discouraged from having a vision for ourselves. We have been very much encouraged to always be in more of a support role. And even though, a lot of modern young women may say, oh, that's not the case anymore. What you may find is, and this is something I've discovered more recently, because I kind of always thought of myself as a powerful woman who didn't really wasn't affected by those things. We are on a societal level affected by the historical attitudes that have been happening. And they're almost subtle. They're almost at an underlying level that we almost play to. And so as a natural automatic behavior pattern, women I know very rarely actually have a vision for themselves. They have I want to create, the feeling I want to create, I want to be nice to people, I want to they have all these really good intentions, but they're not visions, because there's almost a lack of could I read? Well, there's a feeling of could I really do that? And that's what I absolutely love about doing the fingerprint analysis, is how people, there's a story that I often tell, which I think is how the fingerprint analysis, and which includes the gift markers, and we're going to talk about it a bit more today, there's a story I tell, which is based on a Japanese myth. And the myth is there's the goddess Amaterasu, and she is the sun goddess. She is the sun. I love the fact that in Japanese mythology, the sun, by the way, is a woman, not a man like it is in Western thing. Anyway, Amaterasu loves to fight with her brother, who is the storm god, because he's often getting in the way of her doing her stuff and shining her thing. And they have a big fight. One day she's just had enough, and in typical feminine fashion, she kind of goes, well, forget you. I'm going to go and hide now in my little cave. And she goes and hides in her cave, and she pulls a rock across, and she has her little hissy fit. If you think about the world without the sun, what happens to it? People start to freak out, and they're like, oh my God, it's dark, we can't have food, we can't see anything, we're cold. There's so many things that have gone wrong because the sun isn't there anymore. And so people keep trying to persuade her, Amaterasu, please come out. Amaterasu, please come. No, I'm not interested. I'm really had enough. Da-da-da-da-da. And along comes an old lady, and I love the fact that it's always old ladies who have this kind of wisdom. And she says to Amaterasu, it's okay, Amaterasu, you don't have to come out. But you know me, I like to speak face to face. Can you just roll the rock back and let's have a chat? And she rolls the rock back, and the old lady has put a mirror at the entrance. So she doesn't even see the old lady. All she sees is her reflection in the mirror. And for the first time, she recognizes who she is and what she's here to do. And she doesn't even need to have a conversation with the old lady. She goes back to do her purpose. And I think what was quite interesting about part of that story is that in actual fact, even though she was the sun and she was in the cave, while she was in the cave, her light was completely dimmed. And it was difficult for her to actually recognize her true value. It was only once she got back into the sky that she was able to fully blossom back into her sunshine, into her light again. And I think that the fingerprint analysis for me is their mirror for people when they've been hiding in the cave, and gives them a reflection of what's possible for them, a vision of what's possible, a vision of who they truly, honestly are and who they were born to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And you're reminding me that's why I've included this as a bonus when someone signs up to work with me for 6 months, because I want someone to really know at the beginning of that 6 months who they really are. Yeah. Because I do the money archetypes with someone and the branding archetypes, but to kind of have something, as you said, as physical as your body that shows you who you can really be is just colossal, isn't it? Yeah.
And it does. I mean, one of the gift markers that kind of shows up, and it made me laugh because I decided to do a little bit of a review because I haven't sat and talked about the gift markers in a while, and I decided to do a bit of a review, and I thought, and it was so funny. And the one that jumped out to me was the star of Saturn, and the star of Saturn is the one that sits it's a six-pointed star that would sit in this padded section here, but it would sit underneath the middle finger. Look and see if you have it, Rosemary, because you may do, because of what you talk about. And Saturn is kind of like Saturn's all about your value and your worth and your deservability. And people who have the Saturn star in their hands, they have the gift of resourcefulness, helping other people to make money and make money for themselves. They're quite good at organizing things. They're quite good at basically being the hub of the wheel for other people, like being kind of like, I guess, the person that other people make money through because that person is there. They meet each other. The person who kind of is the connector in many ways, but also the person who is very good at managing money, time, energy, love, resources of any sort. What else would there be? Information, support, making sure people get the support they need. That's the gift. But with every gift, there comes a penalty if you're not doing things in a balanced way and you're not doing things enough for you. And the penalty of that gift marker is that you are basically pulled in 25 different directions, and you never helping everybody else, and you never have any time to take care of yourself and you're helping everybody else make money, helping everybody else get the energy they need, get the resources they need, get the love, the support, wherever it is they need, and you're forgetting about taking care of yourself and getting what you need. And so that gift marker, what I love about that is if you understand that penalty sort of side of the gift marker, when you're experiencing that, then you immediately, it's like a flag that kind of says, oh, the reason why things aren't working for me is because I'm not putting enough energy, care, and attention into myself. And I need to also be giving myself more love, more time, more energy, more support. What do I need? It doesn't mean I stop giving it to other people, but if I put the focus on myself, it will work more effectively for all of us.
Isn't that interesting?
And everybody will receive more.
So tell me again, because I've got something kind of, where are we going? If I go up here. On the pad, I can't see. Why don't you send me a photo on WhatsApp? Or I don't know if you can put photos in the group. You can't, can you? Can you see that?
Oh, hang on a second. It's very close, but I can't see it enough. No.
No.
Send me a WhatsApp. I can see you've got a little bit of a star, but it's below your heart line, right? Underneath the thing. That's not it.
No.
So if I draw it on my hand so that anybody can see, I'm going to use a black pen here. If I draw it, it would be about somewhere in this position, and it would have to have at least and be quite funny and have like you still got 6 spokes, but it might be, I'm going to draw one here, but it might be like this, and it kind of have its 6 spokes, and it doesn't have to be a perfect star. Can have weird shape to it, but as long as it's got at least 6 spokes, then it's relevant. But the Saturn star we're talking about is underneath this finger, okay? And it might be quite low down, but it has to be above. You'll find this is your heart line, right? And this is your head line. And this is your lifeline for those people who are talking. Now, these stars need to be above. Sorry, I'm so busy talking to myself. So this is the top one here is your heart line, the one below here is your head line, and the one below here is your lifeline. But these stars, and you can have them, hold on, I'll move this. You can have stars in any of those, under each of those fingers, and each of them are relevant for the gift markers, okay? But I think that, and what I find quite interesting is often when we do, now the fingerprints are something that I'd like to say is almost like a message from your soul. And they don't change. Even if you burnt them off, they wouldn't come back, right? And there's stuff in your fingerprints, which is what Rosemary and I've been talking about before, which is kind of like your life lesson, what you came here to learn, what you came here to share, what you came here to embrace, what you're naturally gifted at, and you need to be doing in order to feel fulfilled. Those kind of things show up in your fingerprints. But then you have lines on top, which in your hands, like what we're talking about here, And so that you might have the heart line, you've got lifeline thing, and then you have other lines. I mean, you might have another line that kind of does this, and you have all sorts of lines all over the place in your hand. Some of them are quite important in that they're gift markers, but in general, they're simply a reflection of how your brain works and how you use your brain. The style so the style of response to emotional response is your headline, your heart line will indicate how your brain is designed to respond emotionally. And your headline it tells you how your brain is designed to respond in terms of logics versus intuition. Now, in order for it to be quite intuitive, you want a curly line that kind of goes down, whereas the logical lines tend to be a bit straighter. Okay, I'm making a right mess of my hand here. But the lifeline is not how long you're going to live, contrary to a lot of palmistry. It's actually more the energy and the sense of stability you have. So it's a combination of how secure you feel in the world versus, and a lot of us don't feel secure in how we are in the world, but also how much energy you have available to put into a project. So some people who might have a very short lifeline, it doesn't mean you're going to die soon. It just means you need a cup of tea before anybody else. That makes sense? You need to stop and just take a break and recharge, and then you can carry on. Whereas some people can be just, they can just go on and on and on and on. So don't worry about that. If you see that kind of thing, I should have bought something to clean my hands. I can carry on writing on another hand, writing on it again. Maybe I'll choose a different color. But it's kind of like, but now if we get back to the gift markers, which we were going to talk about today, is, like these stars. Stars are a typical one, but not every star is a gift marker. So any of these 4 are gift markers. You can also have a gift marker here in this part of your thumb kind of thing. There could be a star. They've really drawn that very badly. That part of your thumb, you can have a star there. You can have a star at the bottom of your palm. with this little kind of almost like a triangle. You can have the star in there. Yeah. You can have stars anywhere, and there's this big fat kind of section of your hand, often quite plump section. That's what we call the moon zone. You can have stars anywhere in there. And then you can have this section here, which is kind of not usually very plump. It's normally where the fat part of your thumb and this part join. That section we call the Mars section, and you can have stars in there. And by the way, I find a lot of stars in there. Those are called Mars stars, and they are stars about unresolved anger, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And there is a gift behind it. But also, you could have stars in this big, plump section here. Now, as you can see, my section is quite plump because I really am a bit of a hedonist, and I really like enjoying life. So the more energy I put into enjoying myself, the better that becomes. So, so if this is a bit depleted in your hand, that's a sign that you might want to do a little bit more to take care of yourself, to enjoy life a little bit more. Maybe you're denying yourself too much if this is getting a bit flat and lacks any, depth, etc. But anyway, and the stars in this section, they might be anywhere in this section. Doesn't matter where they are called Venus stars. I mean, I don't know, Rosemary, can you get people to, while we're on here, are people able to make comments?
Yeah, I've got the Facebook group up here, which incredibly is actually subtitling tonight.
It's fantastic. How impressive.
Yeah, it's actually, I don't know how it's doing it, but it's putting subtitles in as we go. And Coral's watching us. So what are you suggesting, that they take a photograph and send you their... Coral, if you want to,
they're welcome to
comment, please do.
Yeah, just because then that way, I really, if people are taking the time to listen, I like to try to give them something personal back rather than just being. So if I can give you that, I'm just trying to get to the group myself so that I can actually then go and see if anybody puts anything up.
Well, we'll get the comments here. But did you say they could send you a photograph? Was that right?
Yeah, they can possibly lift it, put it up in the Winning Women group. So if they take a photograph with their hand and just upload it into the work of their hand of something, but try to make sure I can clearly see the lines. Then pop it up into the Facebook group, and I'll comment on it for you. So I'm putting that out there now. I'm sure we'll have a bit more time a little bit later just to look at them. But I thought let me just put those out there now.
So let me just backtrack then. So when you say a gift marker, it literally is that you have a gift that's unusual for the general population. Is that how it works?
I would say that probably only about 35% of the population would actually have one gift marker of different types. I should also show on my hand also where else you get. So I talked about the stars, right, on the hand, just to give people ideas of gift markers. You might also have a minimum of 4 lines on the top of your pinky finger there. Not on your other fingers, just the pinky finger, right? Can you see I've kind of really...
And they're going downwards.
Yeah, just vertical lines. Again, you need a minimum of 4, maybe more. And that is a reflection of the lines of genius, that's called. That's one. And then you might also have, and which you probably, I think, might have had, it might be one of your gift markers, but I've gone so dark on here. But this, I'm going to use my finger to point out. But so you might have a line that curves like this from here to here, sort of around this fat part here, so some sort of a line. That's the line of clairvoyance. You may have also, let me see if I can do left-handed on this hand because it's a bit cleaner now. It's a bit disaster. Okay. Then you also, another gift marker is when you only have one line across your hand, like that. You have no second beat, you have no half line, both one line. You basically just have those 2 as your main lines here, and I don't know why it's so bright and not showing.
We're all so different, aren't we? It's incredible, isn't it?
Each hand is unique, right? So you might just have those 2 lines. If you just have this line, it's called a simian crease. Remember, you won't have the top line, just one line. So there's no heart line and there's no separate headline. The heart line and headline are one, and it almost divides the hand in half. They call it a simian crease. It's almost like a lot of people would think of it like a fold line, right? Separates it.
Yeah.
That would be, now if you have 2 lines, but you still have a line that's quite long and straight like this, there's a possibility that could be the gifted problem solver. It has to be straight, right? A straight line, and then it doesn't go all the way to the end. If it goes off the end, we call that a Sydney line, which means you spend your whole time in your head thinking all the way to Sydney. But what you really want for it to have about 1/8 of an inch or so just before it ends, and if it's straight, that we call the octopus headline. Another name is a gifted problem solver. And then I think a line that you might have, instead of this one going straight here, this headline going straight, yours, Rosemary, I think might curve down like this. And if that curves like that, this headline just kind of does this deep curve. We call that Persephone. Yeah, Persephone heart line.
I remember that. Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Persephone beg your pardon, not Persephone heart line, Persephone headline. That's what that one is called. And that, that where that ends and starts, there's a kind of a little bit of a range down here, but it's usually quite a deep curve like that. So that's another one.
What does the Persephone one indicate?
It's a bit like the line of clairvoyance, another one of the intuitive gift markers. The moon stars are also intuitive gift markers. And then the one that I said had in the triangle at the bottom here, that's the Neptune star, which is another intuitive gift marker. So I think you might have all of them if I remember, if you had 8. The gifted healer is kind of like, which is another name for it, is medical stigmata. If I go back a little bit, is usually, so this is this is your pinky finger, right? It's like just next to the pinky finger, and you have to have at least 6 lines, vertical lines in that section there. 6 vertical lines in that zone, kind of between the 2 fingers, a little bit under this finger, but mostly between the 2 fingers. That's the gifted healer. Medical stigmata, another name. You need at least 6 lines, and those each of those lines is indicative in some ways of how much work you've done on yourself, to be honest with you. So that's another one. So I just wanted to share. Did I give them all? I don't know if I've covered them all now. I think I've got most of them. Yeah, I think I've covered them all now. Just so the people who want to send something in a little bit later will know what to look for on their hands. If they want to send some pictures in or whatever. Right, going back to the gift markers. If you have, so we talked about the fact that probably about 35% of the population have one gift marker. Having more, I mean, if you start to have 3, 4 gift markers, you're probably in about 3% of the population. So that could be, so you're not that common. However, the people in the work that we do and the kind of environments we are tend to have more gift markers. And what you will find by having gift markers is that unlike other people, you will have a big internal pressure to do more. I need my life to be more. I need to do more in my life. Everything I do, nothing is ever feels quite enough. And
so
you know, that is a sign usually when you've got these gift markers. So gift markers are a reflection of like additional gifts that you are required to use in the expression of your life purpose. And so therefore, if you're not using them enough, you will often experience some kind of a penalty or a negative side effect. So we talked about the gifted healer, for instance, this one here, right? The lines that kind of go down here. The gifted healer, the gift in that is this enormous ability to create the space for other people to heal. So, I mean, you can never actually heal anybody else, but you can give them the space to heal themselves. And some people are truly gifted at really listening, really being present. You know, those kind of like real healer skills in many ways. However, if you find that your intimate relationship is either going badly or is non-existent, it may be a sign that you are not doing enough of your gifted healing, helping others heal. And also, the other thing, I don't know whether I said this to you at the time, but I've probably come to know it since then, is when you have 3 or more intuitive gift markers, especially the bigger ones like Persephone, Heartline, and what's it called, Line of Clairvoyance, and things like that, you are actually often here to help other people through crises moments in their lives. Especially if you have the Neptune marker as well, which is the gifted empath. Neptune is at the bottom of your where these 2 things in the little triangle there. That's the gifted empath, somebody who can really help people, or is very often able to really hold the space for people when they're going through something really, really challenging. And they have often experienced challenging things themselves. Another name for that one is the hospice worker, simply because they're the kind of person who could be at somebody's bedside when they're dying and create a positive experience for them. They have that level of empathy. It's not, it may be also, of course, the whole issue of sensitivity is something we deal with separately. These are just simply gift markers, and it depends what else is in your hand. The gift markers also might, if they are present in your hand, it means you currently need the pressure of the penalty to encourage you to do the work and use the gift. However, once you begin to integrate that gift into your life and start really using it on a regular basis, it's quite possible that those lines will disappear. And you won't, because you don't need them anymore. The reason they're present is because you need them to be reminded of what you're here to do. But the moment it becomes something natural and something that you just do automatically, you don't need those gifts to show up in your hands anymore. Unlike fingerprints will always be the same, right? But the lines in your hands can change depending on how you shift your thinking, how you shift your behavior, how you shift your habits. The lines in your hands can change. So, you know, the gifted healer will only show up if possibly you are not doing enough healing. Now, my story about the gifted healer, which is the negative being really a breakdown in your intimate relationships, right? Or having no intimate relationship, is that you are so when you are actually doing your healing work and you're doing enough of your healing work, you are using a gift within yourself, and you're not creating a stagnation. So the gift is flowing out through you. You are making the space for other people. You're getting a sense of fulfillment, and you're getting a sense of meaning from that, which means that you don't put pressure on your intimate relationships. And I think the moment that gifted healers are not doing enough work, they start moving that gifted healing work to the intimate relationships and start causing trouble in the intimate relationships, and which is why they constantly go wrong. Move your gifts and just leave them alone. Your intimate relationship will sort itself out if you're just doing enough of the work outside. But it's also, in order to do the work outside, you do need to have an intimate relationship with yourself, your own internal. You need to understand yourself to some extent. And the breakdown in the intimate relationship can also be related to the fact that you are not doing enough work on your intimacy with yourself. That makes sense?
Yes.
I really like the gift markers because they are such flags. They just wave little flags. And so when your relationship starts to go bad, you can go, oh, am I doing enough of my healing work? Where can I go? Who can I go and help heal? Because if I go and help heal somebody else, it'll fix what's going on at home, which I love. I love that fact that it's not such an obvious connection. You always think you need to, when something's wrong, you need to go fix it. So another one that is a very obvious one is the straight line, the headline, which is a straight line across your hand, right? You have 3 lines in your hands, but then you have the one that's going straight across like that. We call that the gifted problem solver that I was talking about. The one that I said, it's not a Sydney line, right? It's a Sydney line if it goes off the end, but if it just stops before, then it's a gift marker. When you have that one, the gifted problem solver is a person who has an ability to see problems from 8 different angles. Now, the average person doesn't. Right?
8 different angles. That's incredible.
Yeah,
excuse me, I've just put something. That's amazing.
But they really, well, and they're also the kind of people will tend to have 8 different books open at the same time, or they're doing 8 different things at once. They like their brains to be stimulated and quite engaged. It's bizarrely, it's a huge gift, and I think that because it's a huge gift, there's an internal fear that sits in a lot of people who have that gift marker. That means that they often don't get off their asses and do what they're here to do, because it just feels so big. And so as a result, the penalty is, and I love this, is creating mountains out of molehills. So they will often go to try and fix things that don't need fixing, or they will go and inspect things a bit too much that really, if they just left them alone, they would work themselves out, or they interfere too much in things, or whatever the case may be, because they're actually kind of bored and they want the stimulation. And so they create mountains out of molehills, and they drive everybody around them bananas. And if they just took the time to just go and find something significantly challenging, in some way, something that really engages them and stimulates them, then they would, they'd leave their family alone, and they'd leave their friends alone, and they'd have much better relationships with everybody, and they'd feel a much greater sense of satisfaction. So they're here to solve problems, and their brain is designed to do that. And because it comes naturally to them to solve problems, they need to be solving problems. So they need to go and find good, chunky problems to solve. They need to, and this is where it really helps if they have a vision. What is it that really matters to me? What do I really care about? The gifted problem solver has a public requirement. Some of the gifts have, are very intuitive or whatever. Others require a public presence or a public outpouring of the gift in order for the gift to be fulfilled. And the gifted problem solver is one of those.
Wow. So I remember one of mine was healer in the public, something like that.
Yeah. You may have had something else that would have kind of made it a public requirement. So there probably would have been some other things in your hands which made it a requirement that you did it in public. It depends, you know, how things show up. But understanding that, and understanding that sitting in your own little room and not really going out there and being present in the world and being a leader would ultimately leave you feeling deeply unfulfilled and unhappy.
Yeah, interesting. Wow. So when you, obviously I had my hands done, and we've made, I've done a bit more work with you since we checked in again. How do you normally work with people now?
Well, I start by inviting them to have a phone call with me, which has no obligation whatsoever, because it's very important to me that anybody that I work with really feels that it's the right thing for them, and there's no heavy sales process involved at all, because I really want you to walk away thrilled, which I would say all but 2 of my clients have told me that they've all been thrilled. So, you know, I've been doing this for long enough that it's okay sometimes to have a few clients who aren't thrilled. But I would say only 2 in my hundreds and hundreds that I've done. Always pleased. So the first thing is always to have a phone call and to see if we are in rapport with each other and you feel like you want to work with me or whatever. And also that I also want to make sure, though, that I can help the person with what they want help with. Because sometimes maybe they want something that I can't, that doing their fingerprints and helping them with what's in their hands could never really solve for them. So it's very important to establish that. So that's my first thing. And after that, then we talk about what does that person need. You know, they might have financial constraints. We talk about, you know, how that could work for them, the best options for them available for that. Most people tend to want to see me either in person or online like this, because I do the sessions online. If we did it online, I send the kit to them to print their own hands, and then they send it back to me and we do it accordingly. But if it's in person, then I print their hands for them. And usually we would meet at my house if they were happy to come here. A lot of people like to come in person. I'm in Acton, West London, but occasionally I'm in Wales. So sometimes I'll go and meet somebody somewhere in Wales when I'm helping my mom out. But otherwise, and then mostly our sessions are one-on-one. I then also, for those people who just want the entry level where we just do the handprints, that's it. And otherwise, if they want more than that, we talk, because I do a lot. You know, I'm a business mentor. You know that I'm passionate about helping people create businesses with soul. And so I often help people then to integrate this information in a way and restructure their business, and particularly their messaging. You know, how they talk about what it is that they do in such a way that is attractive to other people. I really enjoy helping them with that, both as well as the structuring. And I get quite a lot of feedback, positive feedback for that. So, you know, for me, it's really very much a belief in every single individual being unique and having unique requirements. I don't do cookie cutter approach to anything, and I don't want to, because I don't believe anybody fits into a particular mold. I think we've done too much of that, and there needs to be much more of what does an individual need and how can I help you as an individual versus this is my process, fit into it. You know, for some people that's great, but in my case and who I serve, it's better to go down the individual route.
Brilliant.
And if they want to, just so if you want to book a call with me, I have a link which is usually a bit.ly link, if you know what a bit.ly is, bit.ly/Ask Helen. And if you type that in, it'll take you to my booking page for booking a call in with me. I'll put it in the Facebook group, but that was for the YouTubers, if anybody's listening on YouTube.
Yeah, put it in. I'll put it in the YouTube afterwards. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go back and find my hand analysis for all those years ago and have another look. And have you found your hands have changed a lot over the years?
Well, we do. I think as we get older, most of us get more lines, unless we have some kind of brain damage or whatever the case may be, which stops that. But in general, we get more lines, which I think is an indication of developing new neural pathways, new ways of thinking, which I think is quite healthy for most of us, to have different ways that we can actually respond to the same situation. Some people have very few lines in their hands, which is indicative of the fact that they tend to respond very similarly to pretty much everything. Neither is bad, neither is good. It's just the way you are, and it's okay. I have noticed that, for instance, I have a Mercury star, which is one of my gift markers. And one thing that I think is hilarious, how sometimes I can see it easily and it's very obvious in there. And other times I'm like, where was it? What happened to it? It's just like faded out of existence. And so I'm kind of interested in that one because it keeps coming and going. And the Mercury gift marker is about one's ability to translate, the ability to take something complex and disseminate it and translate it for other people in a way that's much easier for them to understand. But it's also about sharing ideas, stimulating ideas, giving people ideas. And when we don't use it, we often become quite blind to ourselves. So when I'm integrating it and using it well, it fades. But when when I start kind of like pulling back from it and just going into myself, as sometimes I do, because I also have a Persephone headline, one of them. And Persephone headline, one of the downsides of that is that we can become a bit kind of, well, for some people it might look like depression, but it's not always depression. It's more of like going into the underworld kind of thing and finding our pearls of wisdom before we come out into the summer and share them with everybody else. So sometimes when you are in that sort of like going in mode, you cannot be using all of your gift markers, in which case my Mercury might come out and say, excuse me, I need some attention. Who are you helping with their message? Who are you helping, to learn something or make something less complicated? So it's kind of, those kind of things happen to me. Otherwise, I just have more and more lines. And to be honest, and some of them, actually, it's quite good to look at them and see how I'm developing blocks for myself. Because sometimes the lines actually show me the blocks. And I'm getting more blocks in some areas, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what I'm doing there to create that. So I get insights that way. But mostly it's about more lines.
Yeah. Really.
Thank you for making me look at my, actually. I haven't looked at them for so long.
Yeah, interesting. I know my hands, and I've obviously had loads of challenges with my hands, and this one's been really troublesome recently. I've probably got a lot more lines than I ever have. So. Brilliant. Well, Tracy says thank you very much. It's been fascinating, and I know some people are going to watch this on recording, and I will send you the recording as well.
Well, I mean, there's so much that I could actually share on gift markers, much more I could share on gift markers. So there's enough interest. I might do something more, but know that there's a lot to share, and this is just a short little intro into it. If people are interested in it.
Always get you back on sometime, couldn't we? And then we could arrange to make it easier for people to send photographs. Now we know what we're doing.
Yeah, in advance. If they send them in advance, I could look at some that I could actually, I could definitely do that with pleasure. I'd love to really help people kind of get out of their own way, recognize their gifts, and just get out there and start sharing with them and just be happier and more productive. We all have something really special to bring to the world. We're here for a specific purpose, and I would love to see us actually just get as many people as possible out there doing what they're brilliant at.
Excellent. Brilliant. Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Helen. And leave a comment, ladies, if you want to get Helen back later on. And or you know where to find her. So what was your website again?
It's hands-on-business.com.
Hands-on business.
Hands-on-business.com, and put hyphens on either side of the on.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Good. Lovely. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies. And come and join us next week where we have our 3 electricians talking about trades.
I don't know all of them, but I know Karen, and she's amazing. So definitely listening for her.
We've got a skills shortage going on. We've got people who've had to change their jobs. And one of Karen's questions was, why aren't we sending them to train more in trades? And also getting our kids interested as well.
I think she's absolutely spot on. They should be doing that.
Definitely. Lovely. Okay. Thank you for watching, ladies, and see you soon. Bye-bye.